we go. Okay, so welcome everyone. For those of you that are back for our monthly masterclass series, welcome back. And for those of you that are new, welcome to the Awaken Ananda Masterclass series. We've been doing these once a month. They're free. And for those of you that don't know, I'm Priya. And I am the founder of Awaken Ananda. And there's many of you that are new, which makes me very excited to introduce myself to you. And for those of you that have heard my story, hopefully it'll keep inspiring you. But my name is Priya. I live in Atlanta, Georgia in the United States. And I used to be a criminal defense lawyer. That was my journey through life for almost 15 years. I was born in India and moved to the United States with my beautiful parents when I was 5 years old, when they took a risk to come to a new country, to start a new life, to give us opportunity. And in the classic immigrant story, that life started with a lot of struggle. We were new. We didn't know much about this country. My parents left everyone and everything that was familiar to them and moved to Columbus, Ohio, and desperately wanted to create a life that was full of love and wealth and abundance. And many of us struggled through that. And my mom is here today, and so I just feel a special gratitude for her today. And that led through a lot of stress. And that stressful life led to me being someone who was very difficult in processing emotion, in understanding who I was. And so I went to my studies. So I thought, if I become a lawyer and I do what the American dream tells me to do, which is, get a job, go to school, get married, have kids, you'll be happy. And I thought, well, I did some of those things. I didn't get married or have kids, but I did a few of those things. I thought, oh, that would make me happy. And I spent a lot of my career as a lawyer unhappy, successful on the outside, but unfulfilled and caged in on the inside. And that led me to ask a lot of questions, because I was not healthy physically. I was not healthy mentally. I was not healthy socially. I was really angry often. And that led me to ask a lot of questions about who am I and why are we here? And what is the purpose of this life? That journey of answering those questions led me back to my motherland of India in 2017. I thought I was going to go to India for a couple of weeks, sort some stuff out, do a little yoga, come right back, and everything would be okay. That's not how it worked for me. I ended up staying in India for over a year, going deep into the spiritual, mental, emotional history of that land that I come from, learning from people like Farah, who continues to be one of my teachers on the path of the ancient Indian healing technology of Ayurveda. And then I brought all of those learnings back once I had healed myself, completely left the law, and decided to open this new life of Awaken Ananda, where I help other individuals going through similar struggles. So where we have done everything society asks of us, and yet we still don't feel fulfilled on the inside. And so that's what's led to this masterclass series, where I want to bring the knowledge that I learned through my journey with all of my teachers to you, to help open up your own awakening journey. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm Priya, if you haven't met, and I am so grateful each of you are here, because I know that when you do your healing, it helps the world become a better place. And since we're all connected, I am grateful to you that you've decided to show up here today and create a better life for you, which creates a better life for me, which creates a better life for all of us. So welcome. And on that note, I am very, very excited to introduce our speaker for today, Farah, who, like I said, has been one of my teachers on this path. And let me do her formal introduction for you. And then I'll do my own personal introduction of what she's taught me. So, Farah is a certified Ayurvedic therapist, a journalist by profession. She developed a profound interest in Ayurveda 20 years ago. And I am going to spotlight her so you can see her.
Hi, everyone.
Ayurvedic therapy starts with identifying a person's unique body-mind blueprint to diagnose any underlying imbalance. The therapist, like Farah, then seeks to heal and balance the body and mind through a personalized Ayurvedic diet, medicinal foods, and specific lifestyle routines and self-awareness techniques. In Ayurveda, it is this self-knowledge that enables us to live consciously and rediscover the wholeness and health and harmony that is our essential being. So that is, in a nutshell, what Ayurveda is. And then I want to talk about a little bit about the topic today. This is Farah's introduction before she gets started. So in Ayurveda, Ojas is our inner strength and vitality, which promotes, protects us, and helps us from physical, emotional, environmental, and lifestyle stress. Modern life depletes Ojas. Fad diets, hectic schedules, overwork, irregular sleep, disturbing media, and emotional toxins such as fear or anger destroy its powerful yet fragile immunity. We have lost touch with nourishing and healing foods. We have lost touch with seasonal cycles. And most importantly, we have lost touch with ourselves. And so Farah is so excited to present this masterclass today, where she is going to teach us how we can rebuild this inner vitality and Ojas with Ayurvedic eating, Ayurvedic living, and Ayurvedic mindfulness, or just mindfulness in general. And so Farah, welcome to the Awaken Ananda community. And we are honored to have you here today and so grateful for your wisdom and knowledge. Class is yours.
Thank you, Priya. Hi, everyone. So today I would like to share Ayurveda's view on a pandemic that has threatened our very existence, our life as we know it. So if we really think about it, what scares us about this virus is what we don't know. Why does it attack some and not others? Why do some recover while others succumb? Why are some of us completely asymptomatic? Modern medicine has no answers to these questions because it doesn't ask why, it asks how. How do we prevent this disease? How do we manage symptoms? How do we kill this bug? Modern medicine asks how because it is the science of the physical body. It sees the body as a sophisticated machine that needs to be fixed or repaired. Ayurveda is the science of life. It sees the physical body as only one part of life. Ayurveda says that before we fix anything, we need to ask why it broke. Why do we break down? Why do we fall sick? Perhaps the answer lies beyond the physical body. So in Ayurveda, we are not one, but three bodies. We are all forms of a divine and cosmic energy, which is our soul or spiritual body. This soul acquires an ego or a personality to express itself. And this personality is our mental body. It consists of all the thoughts, feelings, actions, and behaviors we gather through our lifetime. The ego then acquires a physical form, which is the physical body we all know. So in essence, we are all divine beings who have taken on a personality and a form to express ourselves, to experience ourselves. This divine energy is the source of all life, health, and healing. Therefore, in Ayurveda, the purpose of our life is to express this divinity through our food, through our habits, through our thoughts, and through our actions. When we balance all three bodies, we experience what Ayurveda calls Ojas, which is our inner strength, our vitality, our immunity. So what exactly is Ojas? According to the Ayurvedic texts, Ojas is a superfine protoplasmic substance, which is the building block of all cells, tissues, and organs. Ayurveda likens it to the sap of a plant because Ojas is what gives us our aliveness, our juiciness. Ojas is our inner resilience. It protects us from all sorts of pathogens, physical, environmental, emotional. Ojas works through our endocrine system, through our hormones and through our neurotransmitters to balance and harmonize the body and mind, and to give us physical and emotional stability. Our thyroid hormones, which regulate energy and metabolism. Our neurotransmitters like serotonin, which regulate our mood. Our antibodies, which regulate our immunity, are all governed by Ojas. Low Ojas causes chronic fatigue, chronic disease, hormonal disorders, immune disorders, and depression. Good Ojas gives us health, vitality, immunity, and a deep spiritual connection to life. But this gift comes in small quantities. Nature provides us with only half an anjali, which is less than what you can hold in one cupped hand. So Ojas is a very precious elixir which needs to be nurtured. Unfortunately, modern life depletes Ojas. And low Ojas is today's real pandemic. So, how do we deplete Ojas? Firstly, through our food. To build Ojas, we need a steady supply of wholesome, natural food. But today, we have depleted soil, we have genetically modified crops, we have processed food. And so, getting wholesome, natural food is very difficult. Worse, we seem to have lost our connection with food as the source of our health and our healing. All of us are on some sort of fad diet because finally, how we look today is more important than how we feel. So there are high-fat diets and low-fat diets and high-protein diets and low-carb diets and gluten-free diets and grain-free diets and dairy-free diets. All these have brought us to the brink of nutritional starvation. Ayurveda believes that what is on our plate becomes us. It becomes every cell of our body and our mind. It becomes every feeling and every emotion. It becomes our consciousness. Our connection to food is our connection to life. And when we lose this connection, we lose ojas. The second way we deplete ojas is through our lifestyle. So before the advent of electricity, our life was synced with the sun. We rose at sunrise and we slept shortly after sunset. Now, most of us sleep, or many of us sleep, closer to sunrise. This has imbalanced our circadian rhythms. Our internal body clock is in sync with the sun. Our hormones, our neurotransmitters, our enzymes all have a diurnal output, which means they are pumped out at regular times through the day. So when our body clock is out of sync, it affects our energy, our metabolism, and our mood. And so it lowers ojas. We also seem to have forgotten the balance between activity and rest. Today, we worship busyness. Busyness makes us look productive. Busyness makes us look important. It gives us self-esteem. And so we overwork ourselves. We overschedule ourselves. We overdrive ourselves. This gives us no time, or precious little time, for self-awareness, for real intimacy with people we love. It gives us virtually no time to just sit and breathe. That's why in this pandemic, there is so much anxiety and depression. So many relationships are breaking down because we have removed the band-aid of our busyness. The other thing we do today is over-exercise to the point of exhaustion. Because again, how the body looks is way more important than how it feels. Exhaustion lowers ojas and makes it almost non-existent. We also deplete ojas through our mind. Today, we have replaced our thinking with media. Netflix floods our homes with rape, murder, and violence. Instagram floods our mind with judgment and insecurity. These are mental toxins which we thoughtlessly feed on day after day. My daughter's response to all this is, "Oh, come on, Mom, it's just a movie." The truth is, it's not just a movie. Mental toxins poison our subconscious mind, breeding fear and anger. They play out in relationships, making them chaotic and abusive. They pollute our consciousness. And then, when we suppress these, when we suppress our anger, when we suppress our fear, when we suppress our sadness, these emotions seep into our body tissues, causing chronic stress. And chronic stress causes chronic disease. So now that we are done with all this doom and gloom, how do we nurture this vital essence? We do it by mindfulness, by conscious living, by watching what we put into our mouth, into our life, into our mind. Since what we eat becomes our body, becomes our mind and our spirit, obviously the quality of our food determines the quality of our ojas. Ayurveda says that we need to eat whole foods products that come directly from nature. So fruit harmonizes our spirit. Cooked vegetables detoxify the entire body, cleanse the entire body. Whole grains are staple foods. They nourish and ground us. They give us vitality. Nuts, seeds, and oils lubricate our tissues, our synovial fluid, our joints. Dairy nourishes our nervous system and makes us calm. This may all sound terribly unfashionable today, but sweet food in Ayurveda is what gives us contentment. It builds ojas. Sweet taste is about contentment. And that's why fruit, grain, and dairy, which contain natural sugars, which have a sweetness, are ojas building foods. When we cut them out of our diets, we have low ojas, we have depression, we have chronic fatigue. We also need to relearn how we eat. Our ingredients need to be fresh. They need to be local. They need to be seasonal, organic. We must eat cooked food. So this is very important because in Ayurveda, raw food is detoxifying, but cooked food is building and nourishing. Cooked food contains Agni, or fire, and therefore this Agni helps to pre-digest our food. So our digestion needs to work less. Our internal Agni, our metabolism, needs to work less. Cooked food is much more nourishing and grounding than raw food, though even raw food does have its place in our diet. The next thing is that we need to connect with our food. We need to taste it. We need to smell it. We need to feel its textures on our tongue. We also need to eat with gratitude and enjoyment. Our food is not about dieting. It's not about punishment. It's not about rules and regulations. It's not about cheating and cheat days and cheat meals. The other thing that builds ojas and the way we can nurture our ojas is through our lifestyle and through our habits. Primarily, this means living in sync with the sun, respecting our circadian rhythms. So, we have an internal body clock and an internal sun, which is our Agni, which rises and sets with the external sun. And this sets our circadian rhythm. So to set our circadian rhythm, we need to rise at dawn, do our pranayama, do our yoga, meditate a little. Pranayama, or breathing, deep yogic breathing, activates our prana, or life force. Yoga asanas circulate this prana through the body. Finish off with meditation to center and ground this prana. Then have a light breakfast. Because energy and metabolism are still rising with the sun, we need to activate our energy very gently through yoga and pranayama and meditation. And because metabolism is still not at its zenith, we need to have a light breakfast in the morning. Fruit and some cereal are more than enough. Then between 10 a.m. and 2 a.m., when the sun is at its zenith and energy and metabolism at their peak. It is time to do our work, to do our chores. Also, because metabolism is at its highest, this is the time for our heaviest meal, which is lunch. So in India, most of us, at least in non-urban India, most of us eat our lunch between 12 and 1. This is when our metabolism is at its peak, and anything we eat at this time will be instantly metabolized. Then, as the sun begins to set, we slowly, gradually wind down. After sunset, or even before the sun sets, is time for a light dinner, a supper. This is time to wind down and to relax. It's time to love, to connect with family, with friends, with ourselves. Love is Ojas's most important ingredient. It is food for our heart. Love is food for our soul. We cannot survive without it. And Ojas definitely cannot survive without it. Then around 10 p.m., between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m., it is time to sleep. When we sleep, Ojas repairs our cells and tissues. So sleep is restorative. When we sleep, we replenish not only our cells and our tissues, but we replenish our Ojas. So sleep is very, very important. And then we need to sleep for about 8 hours and wake up again at dawn. The third way that we can cultivate Ojas is through our mind. So we feed our mind in 3 ways. The first is through our impressions, what we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we smell, what we feel. The second way we feed our mind is through our associations and our relationships. The third way we feed our mind is through our emotions. We need to replace toxic impressions, toxic media with good impressions, with uplifting literature, art, music, with nature. Nature provides the most healing impressions, and therefore just a simple walk in the park, preferably barefoot, will build instant Ojas. Toxic relationships disturb the mind. We need to either let go of them or change them. The best way to do this, says Ayurveda, is to practice satsanga. So satsanga is voluntarily choosing uplifting or spiritual company. This calms the mind and gives us purpose. Toxic emotions are like undigested food. They poison the body and the mind. But we need to digest them first before we can even eliminate them. Digesting our emotions is becoming aware and accepting our darkest feelings. What we resist persists. What we accept gets transformed. And therefore, we need to change our negative sanskars by accepting them. Sanskars are basically negative patterns that we have outlived, that we built in childhood but have no place in our adult life. Doing this is far from easy. It requires inner work. It requires inner strength. But it cleanses the soul and it increases Ojas. Fortunately, this pandemic provides ample opportunity for us to do just this. So while it is difficult, I urge all of you to look within at this time and to try and sort through patterns that have dominated you for so many years. So in conclusion, we need to protect and preserve our ojas. And we do this. To do this, there are 3 requirements that I call Om. The first of these is awareness of who we are, of who we truly are, of our spiritual source behind our body and our mind. This source, as I said before, is the source of our life, of our health, of our healing. The second thing we require is understanding of our imbalance. How have we imbalanced ourselves? Through our diet, through our lifestyle, through our body, through our mind. This requires an honest assessment. And finally, we need to mindfully choose the foods, the habits, the thoughts, the feelings, and the behaviors that maximize our physical, mental, and spiritual potential. I find the best way to do this is through Karma Yoga, which is the profound philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. In Karma Yoga, we do our best and surrender the rest. We surrender all our anxiety, all our stress, and all our sadness about results, and focus only on giving everything our best, dedicating everything to the divine within us. Surrender is bliss, and bliss is simply another name for Ojas. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Farah, for that lovely, lovely introduction and awareness and solutions. We have a few questions that I'd like to ask you, but really, first of all, thank you.
Thank you, Priya.
And for those of you, before we get to the questions, please put your questions in the chat. But I wanted to let you know that in the email that you receive tomorrow, and I'll place in the chat here, a way you can get a hold of Farah. She lives in Mumbai, but she does one-on-one work with individuals. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to her. She'll let you know more about that. And the second big announcement for today is that I'm also going to be putting in the chat a 6-week class that I'm doing with Elena from our masterclass last month that's going to help address some of the mindfulness topics that Farah just spoke about toxic emotions, inner child healing, and a way to safely process that which we keep most hidden within ourselves. So both of those are going to go in the chat while we ask Farah some questions. So please put your questions in the chat. But the first question, Farah, for you is from me. And as someone who, let's say someone is new on this path, new to the teachings, where do we start? What is the most important? Is it the food? Is it the toxic energy? Is it the media? Is it sleep? If we can't make all of these changes, can you give us some idea of where the best places are to start?
So I would say food is a good way to start, only because we can access deeper levels of consciousness firstly through our body. which is one of the reasons why, although yoga is about the mind, most of us are still focused on asana, because asana is the easiest way to reach our mind through the body. So the body is the doorway, right? It is easily accessible to us. So just as we reach our consciousness through asana on a physical level, we can also reach our consciousness through food. So in Ayurveda, there's a concept of sattvic food. Sattvic food is food that is harmonizing, that is balancing, and it works at various levels. On the physical level, it works on our cells and our tissues. At the mental level, it works on our emotions. And on a spiritual level, it works on our consciousness. So food is very, very important. And it's a very good starting point.
So as a follow-up to that, Farah, we've received another question. So thank you for sharing that. So food is primarily the best place to start.
It's an entry point.
It's the entry point. So we hear a lot in the West about the word doshas, or the body types that we have. Yes. How important is it us to know that? And what are those different body types? I know that's a class in and of itself, but perhaps if you just give us a little background on how we might know which our body type is and how we might eat accordingly.
So it is very important, because even when we talk about ojas building foods, we need to tailor those to our body types. So broadly speaking, just to give it in a nutshell, okay, there are three types of people. So there are vata type of people who are air types, and they have light bodies. Okay, they are light, cold, dry, very mobile people that are given to anxiety. Okay. There are pitta type of people, which are the fire type of people. Okay. And pitta people are strong. They're medium built, they're strong, and they have a hot energy about them. So they're prone to inflammation, both in body and mind. So they tend to be reactive, okay, volatile. And then we have the earth type. So the earth type is heavy. Or let's say they have bigger frames. They're heavier people. But like the earth, they're also very nurturing and loving. So we are actually a combination of these three types. It is very simplistic to say that any of us can fall within one type or the other. But broadly speaking, two would be dominant. Rarely all three also operate. So knowing which ones are dominant is critical, I would say, when we are planning our diet, because this eventually balances us. So what I have presented here is what will build ojas, but even that has to be modified. So for instance, earth types who are very prone to congestion, okay, should stay away from dairy, because this is a very congesting food. So even ojas building foods need to be modified according to constitution. And therefore, finally, Ayurveda is an individualistic therapy. It's not a one size fits all. Okay? You need to know your unique blueprint before you can advance, because even your mind, even the way you think depends on that blueprint.
Okay, thank you. And there's three unique blueprints in general.
There's three unique blueprints, but we are a combination.
Of some or all, based on...
People can be a combination of air and fire, or earth and fire, or earth and air. So there are various types, and our diet, our lifestyle, how we interact with the seasons, everything depends on this original, which is basically called our prakriti or nature. So this blueprint is given to us by nature at the time of our conception. It's virtually like our DNA. We can't change it. And what Ayurveda says is that when we live according to this blueprint, or keeping this blueprint in mind, or knowing this blueprint, then we can balance ourselves. We live to our full potential. We live in the way nature intended us to be. But when we move away from this blueprint, and 3 ways in which we move away are, one is through diet, through our lifestyle, and even through our mind. This is the way we imbalance ourselves and move away from our original blueprint. Then we develop symptoms, which are just symptoms of an imbalance.
Thank you for clarifying. We have a question asking if you can repeat again, Farah, what is the best time to have breakfast and dinner? Can you just repeat that again?
So, just as we have earth, air, and fire times, the day also has earth, air, and fire times. So just as we have earth, air, and fire doshas within us, the day has clear times when these elements predominate. And morning, between 6 and 10 in the morning, is a time when earth energies predominate. And that is the time when our energy and metabolism is just waking up. So to pump food or a heavy breakfast into our systems at this time is not really advisable. So we need to stick to a light and nourishing breakfast, preferably towards the end of earth time. So around 9:30 is great.
Okay. We have a question here, Farah. Can you please explain that which creates mucus in the body, which causes diseases? How does it work with a plant-based diet? We often hear in the West that dairy is bad for us, gluten is bad for us, and both create mucus in our body. So can you just explain a little bit about that? And Raki, if you want more information, just write a different question. Yeah.
Sure. So dairy is heavy. So we are looking at the energetic qualities of food. So dairy is heavy, sticky, cold, sweet, okay? And these are all mucus enhancing qualities. Now, to say that dairy is bad for all of us, again, is a one size approach. So dairy is actually very good for people with an air constitution, because people with an air constitution, remember, are light, okay? They tend to get unfocused, ungrounded, anxious. So dairy is actually, the heaviness of dairy is excellent for these people because it helps to ground and nourish them. On the other hand, for an earth type, so remember, earth types are heavy and sticky. They have a lot of phlegm and congestion and a lot of coldness in their bodies. So they are prone to congestion in any case. So the last thing they need is something that's heavy and sticky, which is why earth types or kapha types should keep away from dairy. So which is why I say it is so important, firstly, to know who we are, right? Because instead of taking things as a blanket rule, dairy is bad for you, gluten is bad for you, okay, or grain is bad for you, we need to first ask, who am I and why is this bad for me? The question that begs to be asked is not, will this suit me? But firstly, who am I? What is my body? What is my mind? Okay. What is my purpose? And then I fit my food and my lifestyle and my thoughts into that blueprint.
And so, Farah, I suppose for a lot of us here who we go online and we have all of these quizzes, learn your dosha, learn your body type in some things. But what is the best way to really learn what our body type is? Other than working with you, of course, which she's an expert at.
Thank you. But So the doshas, the quizzes do help, not that they don't, but our Prakriti is way more nuanced than what a quiz can apply itself to. Okay, so simply, if we are talking about the mind, all right, and you say are an air type and a fire type, which means you're prone to anxiety and you're prone to reactivity or anger. Okay, in this case, okay, and a quiz would tell you that, okay, so I'm an air type, so I'm prone to anxiety, and I'm a fire type, I'm clearly a fire type, so I'm prone to reactivity. But very often, a pith type will come to you and say, I'm an anxious person, okay? But there are two types of anxiety. So there is an air type of anxiety, which basically is a feeling of ungroundedness, fear of the unknown, fear of life, fear of death. Then there is a fire type of anxiety. And this fire type of anxiety is to do with performance, okay, with ourselves, wondering whether we are good enough, whether we will perform well. So when you look at these nuances, basically a quiz may not be able to address these. Okay, so for these, I would say Ayurveda has traditionally worked one-on-one. So it is only now, because we are in touch with so many people and because of social media and the internet, we can reach out to so many people, which is wonderful, it's marvelous. But traditionally, Ayurveda was treated one-on-one. So in the villages of India, your Ayurveda, your doctor knew you personally. He came to you, he knew you, he knew your body, he knew your mind, and he would basically tailor your diet and he would tailor your herbs according to your doshas. Okay, and he would then counsel you according to your doshas. So Ayurveda traditionally, its traditions are basically one-on-one. Okay. As in a way is also yoga. So yoga as it is taught today is super because it reaches out to the mass, right? It reaches out to so many people, which it probably didn't 100 years ago. But therapeutic yoga needs to be taught one-on-one, again with doshas, so that we can understand the person and then apply therapeutically asanas suited to them. So I would say take the quiz by all means, and it's very good. So I don't write it off at all. It gives you a very, very good understanding. But the nuances are difficult to get. That is what I would say.
Yes, and I think for me in my own healing journey, it's understanding those nuances that's led to the most difference in my health and vitality, you know, working with a one-on-one practitioner. And it's not been for an extent, not for years and years, but some few weeks of concentrated sessions gives you a lifetime of answers. And so my other question to you is, do our doshas or do these patterns or types or constitutions change over time or based on our stress level or our life or anything, or do they stay consistent?
So our basic proportion, which is called our Janma Prakriti, which is the proportion we were born with, okay, or conceived with, okay, remains constant. But the doshas themselves, what we call the vikruti or the imbalance, can keep fluctuating. Okay, so normally the vikruti can either be the imbalance of the vikruti can follow the dosha. So you may be an air type, and then at certain times in your life, which are very stressful, that air element may rise. So as a child or in your Janma Prakriti, if you say were 40% an air type and 60% fire, but you're now under stress, that air can go up and the manifestation can be 60 or 70%, which is you're then showing symptoms of an imbalance. So that is what it means.
Thank you. So moving on from food to emotions, we've gotten a couple of questions, Farah, on, and I know there's no easy answer to this, as both of us do this work, but perhaps you'll shed some light on how do we start shedding the dark emotions, the fear, the anxiety, the pain, the hurt, the anger. What would your thoughts be on how do we start cleansing our emotional body?
So we digest our emotions in pretty much the same way that we digest our food. Okay. Which is why a lot of digestive symptoms are just physical manifestations of emotional indigestion. For instance, acidity, okay, could be a lot of anger that we keep suppressed. Gas is an inability to process fear. Okay. So in a way, we need to digest our emotions the way we digest our food, and only then can we eliminate them. But how do we do this? So we do it by awareness and acceptance. Only when we become aware. So most of our time, okay, either we use busyness to stuff our emotions down and suppress them, okay, or we use a defense mechanism. But the secret, I think, is to move beyond that and to experience the emotion, not to try to explain it away, not to try and bypass it. Okay, so very often in our spiritual quest, okay, we do what is called spiritual bypassing, okay, which is we try to understand the emotion, or we try to bypass the emotion by saying that it is not real or that it is not spiritual. Okay. In fact, experiencing an emotion is true spirituality, because it is in experiencing our fear, in experiencing our anger, in experiencing our sadness without fighting it, okay, that we can truly go into that sanskar or mental pattern and know with utmost certainty, okay, how much it governs our life. Right? Without doing that, okay, and without just acknowledging that it's there and that perhaps it doesn't need to be there because we are spiritual, okay, we are not doing the work. So we need to do the work. We need to do the plumbing before we can eliminate or change or build a new sanskar or mental pattern.
Thank you. And I'll say that for me, I was really afraid to feel emotions in the beginning of this journey. I didn't even know what feeling felt like. And so there was a real fear to go inward and tap into that. And so in addition to feeling, I think for me, Farah, was having support, having teachers, having guides, having healers, having a therapist, someone who could just hold a safe space, at least in the beginning, until I got even comfortable with feeling and tapping into that thing I had hidden for so long. And so if any of you, are nervous about that, I would encourage you that we don't have to be in vicious independence with our healing. We can and willfully ask for support. In fact, my biggest healing came when I was in community with others. So I'll just add that 2 cents onto that. Please.
Just to clarify, healing is always a two-way process. Okay, so while the therapist seems to be healing, okay, the client, the therapist is also getting healed. So every single client that comes before you comes for a purpose, comes to heal one part of you. And acknowledging that, acknowledging this, completes the healing process for both. So when you come to a therapist, okay, it is in a state of vulnerability. Okay, you feel vulnerable. You don't know whether you can trust the person. Forget with feelings, even with your own body or your attitude to your body or your relationship to your body. So we come with a feeling of deep vulnerability to a therapist. But remember that the therapist is just as vulnerable. Okay? And that the healing process is to address the vulnerability of both. And that is how it happens.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful reminder. It reminds me of the quote by Ram Dass, which is, we're all just walking each other home. All of us. A few more questions, Farah, but I'll just on this point, how do you know if you're bypassing digesting the emotion?
So I would say by going into the body, because emotions are felt in the body. Okay, so if you've ever felt fear, for instance, you will either feel it as butterflies in your stomach, okay, or you will feel it as a tightness in your chest. Very often when we try to, resort to a defense mechanism. So spiritual bypassing is a defense mechanism. It's something we hold on to so that we don't have to feel. So the easiest way, again, just as with food, just as with asanas, is to go back to the body and feel it there. Because emotions speak their language through the body. And therefore, we need to feel that emotion. And when we feel it, we heal it.
Thank you. Next question. There are a lot of Ayurvedic supplements that are heavily marketed and expensive on the market. Does one need all of those, and how do we know?
So again, this has to be done on an individual basis. Okay. So if you take a very, very simple supplement that is becoming hugely popular in the US, ashwagandha. Okay. So ashwagandha is an adaptogen. Okay. It reduces physical and mental stress. And by and large, it is safe for all doshas. But it tends to be heavy. And because it is heavy, okay, it may not be the best herb, okay, for someone who experiences heaviness or lethargy. Okay. So physical heaviness or emotional heaviness, it may not be the best herb. Okay. Again, it would depend on whether the person is totally an earth type or is it a dual type, in which case you could probably have a more balanced formula. So I would say what's happening today is in the US and in the West, people are having single herbs, okay, which is not actually how Ayurveda intended it to be. So it's very convenient because you can isolate that herb and then you're safe because you know the effect it could have on a person. But generally, there are heating herbs and cooling herbs. There are drying herbs and lubricating herbs. And normally, in an Ayurvedic formulation, okay, we have it's a polyherbal, so a multi-herbal mineral formulation will balance elements out so that the imbalance is not felt by the body. So the herbs come in a much more balanced form when they are part of what is called a classical formulation.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. can you explain a little bit of karma yoga is the next question. And before you answer, if I've missed your question, just please retype it in the chat and I'll be sure to ask. The questions are just going a little too fast for me. So please retype it in the chat. But the next question that I see is from my beautiful friend Benita. Explain a little bit of karma yoga.
So karma yoga is basically the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. It is one of the three paths to the divine. Okay? So the three paths are Gyan Yoga. So Gyan Yoga is the yoga of knowledge. Okay? It is the yoga of self-awareness, of knowing that you are not your mind. You are way beyond your mind and body. So Gyan Yoga is one of the paths to self-awareness and to moksha, which is enlightenment. The second path is Bhakti Yoga. So in Bhakti Yoga, you surrender yourself, you surrender your ego, you surrender your life, you surrender everything to a divine power, or to your highest self, to your divine self. So that is Bhakti Yoga, which is the yoga of surrender. Okay? And then we have Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga is the yoga of action. Okay? And again, as we said, just as we said that diet and asana are more relatable to the body, Karma Yoga, again, is more relatable to a physical existence, right? Because basically, when we lead a physical existence, we are doing things. So the Bhagavad Gita says, not doing is not a choice. We are impelled to act. So even when we are silent and we are not doing anything, we are still acting, making a choice, right? So Karma Yoga is the yoga of action. Okay. It is basically surrendering every action, okay, to the divine within us, and without caring for the results of that action. Okay. So mostly, if you see, our entire day, okay, is about results. So we don't have money, so we go out and work. We don't have love, so we go out and seek love. So most of our day, okay, goes in seeking. Okay? Our actions are devoted to seeking, to desire. Karma Yoga turns that on its head because we perform the actions because that is our duty. That is what we have taken physical manifestation for. But we do it without ego. We do it without expecting results. We do it just because we need to.
Lovely. That might be the hardest concept for my type A personality to wrap my hands around. The concept of surrender. I work on it daily. Okay, next question. What are some light breakfast foods?
So I would say that again depends on your dosha. So a light air type of person, okay, so small bodied air types would actually do with something that is a little more nourishing, okay. So say an oat porridge is great with a little ghee. Incidentally, ghee is the #1 ojas food. Okay, so actually in the old Ayurvedic texts, ghee resembles ojas. So what the ancient Veds said was that ojas, as it exists in our body, closely resembles ghee. Okay, it is nourishing, it is lubricating. Okay, and ghee is our #1 ojas food. It builds strength in the digestive system. So there's lots of research being done on ghee now. So it basically consists of many fatty acids that actually balance our microbiome in our digestive tract, which is what Ayurveda has known all along. It nourishes our nervous system. It strengthens our bones. So ghee is extremely nourishing food. Okay, all the three doshas can have ghee. It is best for air types because it's so grounding. Okay, it is excellent for fire types because it is cooling. So though it comes from heat, it is a cooling substance. It's not that great for earth types because it is heavy and earth types are heavy. But even earth types can do with a little ghee. So ghee can be added in smaller or greater quantities to all meals, including breakfast. So as I was saying, and a light air type could have a breakfast of, say, oatmeal, like not steel cut, but whole oats, okay? So with a little ghee added into it, right? If you are non-vegetarian and you're an air type, you can have eggs for breakfast. That is also very nourishing food, okay? A pitta type could have a rice-based cereal. So poha, which is an Indian rice-based breakfast cereal, okay, is excellent for pitta types. Kapha types do very well on barley, which is a lighter grain. So having a nice pearl barley khichdi or a pearl barley porridge would be great with a little almond milk. Honey is excellent food for kapha types and also promotes ojas. So kapha types could have honey with barley. So breakfast also varies according to your type. But broadly, these are all ojas promoting breakfasts.
And for us in the West who don't have the time or the effort to make homemade ghee, are the marketed brands okay for us to start with?
So look for grass-fed organic ghee from a reputed company and you'll be fine. Okay.
Oh.
So in Ayurveda, where food comes from is super important, right? So cows that are ill-treated, for instance, okay, the milk they give is full of stress hormones, and ghee made from that can't be very great. So look for ghee that comes from grass-fed cows that are looked after, that are contented. That is very important.
Awesome. Is there an Ayurvedic opinion or view on fasting? You know, in the West here, intermittent fasting has become a craze. Is there a view that Ayurveda has on fasting?
So actually, Ayurveda is the mother of intermittent fasting because when the sun is just rising, energy and metabolism are also just rising, right? So at this time, as I explained before, to dump the body with a lot of food may not be the best thing, right? So again, we go back to the drawing board of doshas. So air types, okay, who get up feeling anxious very often could do with a bit of grounding and breakfast. So intermittent fasting may not be that great for them. Okay. But pitta and kapha types, fire and earth types, can easily get to 12 noon without eating. Okay. Again, we need to tune in and see what we are feeling. Are we hungry? Have we exercised? If we have exercised, maybe we do need a little something, right? So again, if you do intermittent fasting as a way of working with your body and what it needs, then it's great. But if you're doing intermittent fasting in order to look a certain way, okay, then that may not be your best bet. So a lot of what we do today is about looking good, not about feeling good. Okay. And the persuasion of media is so strong that even somebody like me who teaches and reads Ayurveda is swayed by that sometimes, right? Because the benchmark is so high. But we need to center ourselves and we need to ask ourselves, what is good for me? Does this intermittent fasting work for me? Does it make me feel good? So that is the answer.
And it sounds like looking good is an automatic byproduct of feeling good.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Farah.
Don't think of it that way. We think of it in the reverse.
Wait, say that again. Think of it in the reverse.
Good. We feel that if we look
Yeah.
good.
Yes. I don't see any more questions in the chat. If I missed a question, please type it. I've also put Farah's contact information in the chat, and I've put the information for the upcoming 6-week class in the chat. And I think that's it. Do you have a YouTube channel or Facebook page? Awaken Ananda has a YouTube channel where Farah's chat will be posted, and a Facebook page that you'll get information to in the email tomorrow. I don't think, Farah, you have a Facebook page or a YouTube, do you?
No, I'm barely on social media.
She's real old school, one-to-one. You email her, she'll set up some time, and it's a beautiful, beautiful practice to work with you, Farah.
Both great.
WhatsApp and email. Okay. I will definitely put all of that information in the email that you'll get tomorrow with this recording. And please, please check out the Heal Yourself 6-week class coming up. And then next month's master class. If you like these master classes, we're going to do them every month. They're always going to be free. Please tell your friends and family, because as you can see, the speakers that I want to bring to you are life-changing. No other words for the information that you shared with us today, Farah. And thank you to each of you for joining us today. I'm so grateful for you, and so many familiar faces, and to the new friends, welcome and see you soon. Thank you so, so, so much. Lots of love, everyone. Happy weekend. Thank you, Farah. Any last words, Farah, before we go?
Absolutely been an honor sharing this with you. Sharing something that has come down over thousands of years. I thank you for letting me share it. Namaste.
Namaste. Lots of love. Lots of love, everyone. See you. Oh, and someone asked about another session with Elena. The 6-week class is going to be with Elle and me co-hosting. So please take a look at that if you're interested in that. Thank you, Farah, again.
Thank you, Priya.
Hi.